I was looking at this ATM. I threw my head back. I was like, man, what am I going to do? And right when I looked to the right, I saw this big crooked sign. It said Wise Old Owl Real Estate School. And then I said, well, if I could sell knives, I could probably sell houses. So I literally walked across the parking lot and I started taking real estate classes.
So this is episode 71 of Keeping It Real Estate. Today we have a very special guest, Tarek El Moussa. Tarek is a longtime flipper, wholesaler, entrepreneur, and has many hit HGTV shows, including Flipper Flop, Flipping 101, and his upcoming brand new show, The Flipping El Moussas. Tarek is going to add an extreme amount of value to you all today. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. First off, Tarek, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, let's jump into it. The bulk of our listeners likely have a pretty good feel of, who you are. You're the star in Flipper Flop, which is, I believe, the most popular flipping show in history. Yep. And then you also filmed for Flipping 101, and your new show coming out with your wife, Heather, is airing soon as well. So with that, I'd love to hear a little bit more of background on, where you started, how you got into real estate, and just a little bit more on your background.
So I'm just going to start with this. Success with real estate investing, it really comes from one thing. It's mindset, right? It's all what you're thinking between those ears. That's all it is. Like when I started, I had nothing but mindset. Anything's possible. I could do this. So I'll rewind a little bit. I graduated high school in the year 2000. By 2002, I was a 19-year-old kid. And I was going to college. I was miserable. I went to Cal State Fullerton. I would try to go get a class and they would tell me I got to sit on the floor and then I have to petition. And if I show up for a couple weeks, maybe they'll let me in the class. Like it was just bullshit. So I was so frustrated. I could never find parking. And at the time, I was selling kitchen knives with a company called Cutco. I'm sure half the listeners probably have Cutco in their kitchens right now from their kids. But, so I was selling these Cutco knives and it turns out I was gifted at sales. I was good at selling these knives and I was making decent money. So that's how I was surviving. And this was a long time ago before systems and technology. So all my leads were in a binder. So one day I go to make my sales calls and guess what I couldn't find?
The binder.
The binder. And this binder was like my Bible, had everything in it. And I lost it. I searched my car, my house, everything. It was gone. And I didn't want to start all over from ground one, rebuilding the knife business. It was just, I put a lot of work in. So I found myself in a position where I needed to make money. So right away, I went back to delivering pizza just to get me money until I figured it out. So a couple of weeks after that, I'm at an ATM in Cerritos, California. It was a Washington Mutual, actually. And I'm pulling money out of my ATM. And the ATM's literally laughing at me. Like, don't try to pull money out. You're already overdrawn, And I had what I like to call a defining moment, which is a moment in your life that changes the trajectory of your life. And I'll never forget. I was looking at this ATM. I threw my head back. I was like, man, what am I going to do? And right when I looked to the right, I saw this big crooked sign. It said Wise Old Owl Real Estate School. And then I said, well, if I could sell knives, I could probably sell houses. So I literally walked across the parking lot and I started taking real estate classes. So now I get my real estate license. I'm like 19, almost 20 years old. I sold my monster truck from high school. I bought a 1985 baby blue Buick Park Avenue. So that was my real estate car. And my first 6 months in the business, I was young, I was hungry, I was motivated, I was passionate. I struck out. I didn't make any money, like no money. And I remember being so defeated, being this kid making no money. I got to go back to school, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, right as I'm about to quit real estate, I hear these two real estate agents in my office, these two ladies. They were just talking, but I can hear them talking about this guy named Mike Ferry, who was a real estate coach that was coming into town to teach people how to sell more houses. And then these two ladies were talking about how stupid real estate agents were for paying a coach to teach them what to do. So, 20-year-old Tarek, I was like, what do you mean a coach? You mean someone can tell me what to do? Please. You know, I had baseball coach, football coach, hockey coach. I never had a business coach. I was a kid. So I ended up going to this free event at a Buena Park Sequoia Athletic Club. And by the end of this free event, Mike Ferry is the most incredible speaker in the world, man. This guy, I was obsessed with him. I used to follow him all over the country. This guy changed my life. And by the end of this thing, he convinced me like I could do anything. He convinced me anything was possible. He convinced me that I could literally accomplish anything I wanted to. So I had this crazy mindset, this feeling in me. At the end of the event, I handed him a piece of paper. I said, my name's Tarek El Moussa. You don't know who I am today, but one day you will. He knows who I am today, by the way. So what I did is he was selling a one-on-one coaching program, okay? This coaching program was one 30-minute call a week with a coach, and it was $1,000 a month. I was 20 years old. I had no money. And at the time, I had broken up with my girlfriend, so she kicked me out of her mom's house. I tried to move back home. My mom and dad got divorced, so my mom rented out my bedroom, and I had nowhere to go. My mom said I could stay in her garage. So I was living in a garage with cockroaches and spiders. You hit the clicker, the door opens, I rolled a cot in, and that's where I slept, right next to my dirt bike. So I had no money. So Mike inspired me enough to go all in, and I put it on my credit card, $1,000 a month. And here's what happened. You know, I got my coach. My coach laid out a plan. He said, you're going to go after expired listings. This is what you do, blah, blah, blah. An expired listing is a house that was on the market, didn't sell. The contract expires. We could go get that listing. So what I did is I told my coach, I'm going to give this 90 days. If I can't pull this off, I have to go back to school. Like, that's it. So I made a deal with myself. I gave myself 90 days. The deal was I'm going to work 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday and Sunday nights. The deal was I wasn't allowed to go home until I had 50 conversations a day. So I was arriving to the office about 7 a.m. I was getting home around 9 p.m. And here's what happened. Within like 2 weeks of going after these expired listings, I was like 20-year-old kid. I ended up landing a few $1 million in listings. And the market was hot, meaning once those listings sold, which they were going to sell, I had already like $50,000 in my pipeline of commissions I was expecting. So now, and this is only 2 weeks in, I'm looking at my pipeline. I'm like, holy shit. So then I'm in my college classroom, and it was after I worked real estate all day. It was a class from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night. It was in a big stadium. It was about the geological sciences of the rocks in Canada, something like that. And I had another defining moment. So I'm sitting in this class learning about rocks, and I'm like, I don't care about rocks. I'm thinking about real estate. And then I realized, I'm like, what the hell am I doing in this classroom? In 2 weeks, I put together $50,000. This classroom is not going to teach me to do that. So then I had another one of those defining moments that changed the trajectory of my life. I burned the boats. I said, here's what you're going to do, Tarek. You're leaving and you're never coming back. So that's what I did. I left my backpack, my calculator, my books, my pencils, everything that my parents bought me. I left it in that classroom. That way there was no backup plan and there was no going back. So I left school, and here's what happened at the end of my 90-day sprint. So at the end of my 90-day sprint, I ended up earning about $120,000 in real estate commissions. So literally 20-year-old kid from $0 to $40,000 a month overnight, felt like. Within 2 months after that, I moved out of my mom's garage, and I bought $1 million house in Orange County, California. I was 21 years old when I moved in. It was 3,200 square foot house, top of Anaheim Hills. It was a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom. I bought this house, no furniture. I rented out 4 of the bedrooms for $500 a month to my buddies, and all of our furniture came from the skateboard shop. And that's where I lived. So then, I'm young. And I'm doing great. I buy an S500 Bravas, Cadillac Escalade, all the things you're not supposed to do, I did. And I grew up in Buena Park, California, which is not a fancy area. So you guys have to understand, I was never around money. I never even knew what money was. So by 25, I had built a real estate team. I was doing really well. Things were good. My ego was like so big. Thought I was the smartest guy alive. Clearly I wasn't. Because 2007 came around. And by the end of 2007, well, I had to sell my house. I had to sell my cars. I had to sell everything I owned. And I sold that $1 million house, and I moved into a 700 square foot apartment with a roommate. And
Wow.
that was the beginning of some really rough years during the Great Recession.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, hey, let's talk a little bit about, I mean, there's just so many points you touched on that I think are worth kind of delving a little further into, Tark. You know, you had this anything is possible mindset. Sounds like you grew up and you're like, I can do this. Then you found the mentor and he further confirmed that. What do you think were some of the key things that happened as you grew up in your life that gave you that confidence? Because I think that's a huge piece. That is the gold. It's the one thing that separates. So what is it? What was it?
Yeah, 100%. I am extremely confident. But here's why though. It's not arrogant, it's not cocky. It's confident. Here's why. The greatest lessons in my entire life I've learned about confidence was through my father. My father was my coach for my sports. And from the time I was 7 years old, I played baseball every single day like it was a full-time job. Every day my dad would pick me up from school. I'd take ground balls. We go to the batting cages. I'd take pitching lessons. And as a kid, for years, I had a full-time job. And another lesson I learned about nothing's given to you in life. When I was 5 years old, my dad was my soccer coach. It was my first year in soccer. At the end of the season, they invited my dad to be the coach of the All-Star team, which is very exciting, right? So when my dad chose the All-Star team, guess who he didn't choose?
His son.
He didn't choose me.
Yeah.
To this day, I remember being a 5-year-old kid sitting at my parents' dining table and just crying. And I remember asking my dad, I said, Dad, why don't you choose me? And he looked me right in the face and he said, you're not good enough.
Wow.
That's it. And then he said, if you want to be on the team, you can be good enough. It's going to take a lot of practice and a lot of hard work. So from 5 years old, I learned anything is possible if you do what it takes to get there. Now, it's not possible if you sit on your butt and you don't do anything. It's possible if you do everything you need to do in order to get there. So then I learned nothing's handed to me. So if I want things, I got to go work for it.
Yeah. Wow. I love that, you guys. I mean, you're hearing it right now from a guy who came from nothing. I mean, Tark, you learned some harsh lessons. You went through some shit. And I appreciate that. I can relate to you so much. I came through that same sort of stuff. My parents didn't have any money. I went through hard times. In order to build a career, I was broke. And at the end of the day, same thing my parents said to me, you want it bad enough, you have to put in the work and you're gonna have to go after it every day for an extended period of time, long periods of time. So I can appreciate that. And I'm sure that's why you are who you are. So applaud to your parents right there.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job. Not too bad.
Yeah. So looking at your actual business, the brand you built, how important do you think, your personal brand is in the real estate industry, and just how do you break through all the noise out there?
I mean, a brand is extremely important, when you're scaling and you're doing big business. But, when you're starting out, you don't need a brand. And most people, they focus on the brand instead of the business. No, do the business first, make some money, find success, and then you go build your brand. So a lot of people do it backwards. But today my brand's very important because my brand is my message, and that's how I reach the world. And I have two goals in life. My one goal is to teach as many people as humanly possible to find success through actively investing in real estate. My other goal is for those who don't have the time to actively invest, accredited investors, doctors, lawyers, whatever it might be. My other main goal is to partner with and invest and buy commercial real estate with people who want to invest but don't have the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gosh, I love it. So you've been this incredibly successful, TV show creator and flipping business on TV scenarios. What sets you apart from all the other people that are trying to do the same thing? I mean, you got to have a lot of people who are trying to flip. Let's make a flipping show. Why was it? What do you think it was that made your show launch and others didn't?
I moved fast and I tried while other people talk about it. You want to hear how I ended up on TV? Most people, they tell people, they think about it, they wonder, but they never do anything with it. Life is about massive action. So this is how I ended up on TV. I went to a Mike Ferry event. I was sitting in the very back of this auditorium. There was 5,000 people. My friend was a vice president of a real estate company. 2 seats opened up next to him in the front row. He invited me to go sit up there. That's the VIPs. At the break, everybody saw me and my ex-wife. They're like, who are you guys? Haven't seen you before. I met a guy. He was on stage the day before talking about how he made $800,000 a year. That's a lot of money back then. I was like, $800,000. I need to talk to this guy. So at the break, I'm talking to him, and it turns out he had a local TV show. So I'm like, man, that's smart. Well, what does that do? He's like, well, I go places and people recognize me. And I said, well, what does that do? And he goes, well, then they work with me. So I'm like, man, TV, that's smart. And I didn't think about it again. 2 days later, I'm sitting on my couch. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And I keep thinking about this conversation. My ex-wife, she has 1 foot up the steps. We lived in San Clemente in our little condo. She goes, you coming to bed? And I looked at her dead in the eyes. And I said, no, I'm going to get us a TV show. She started laughing at me. She goes, what are you going to get us a TV show on? And then I had no idea. So I took a moment and I said, well, we just bought our very first flip last week. Why don't we flip houses on TV? And that's how I came up with the idea for the TV show. She laughed at me, went to bed. I went on the internet, on Google. I put in Hollywood production companies. The websites came up. I looked at the websites. They had a button that said casting. I sent them my show idea. The next morning I woke up and one of them responded.
Man, I just love that, you guys. You can hear this right now. This is not scripted. I mean, this is beautiful in the sense of I go out in the world. What opportunities do I see? How can I capitalize? Take massive action immediately. And I think that sometimes is overlooked and not understood. It's just massive action, getting around the right people, associating, creating synergies, and going like hell.
That's it. Just going like hell. But I'm going to tell you the wildest part of the story. So then they respond. They said, send a home video. I sent a home video, which they loved. I electrocuted myself. I burned my feet with acid. I painted all the baseboards to the new flooring. I did everything wrong, right? But I did make 34 grand. They liked the home video. And then they said, we're going to send out a professional crew. So we did a 2-day shoot for something that's called a sizzle. It's like a 5-minute teaser episode. And that goes out to all the networks. Nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted it. So I said, okay, fine. I tried. That's all you can do is try, right? You got to try. I get a call like 8-9 months later from the production company saying HGTV wants to do a pilot. Exciting, right? So now this is summer of 11. I'm filming a real TV show pilot with HGTV. They tell me the odds of getting picked up are very slim. And if you do get picked up, it's going to take a really long time. We finished the pilot. Literally weeks later, I get a contract across my desk for my own house flipping show on HGTV to do 13 houses in 10 months. Exciting, right?
It's incredible.
2 problems. Problem 1, I don't know how to flip houses. Problem 2, even if I did, I don't have any money. Okay, this is real. So then I called my attorney who helped me with the paperwork, who did it on a payment plan, by the way. And I said, well, what is the worst thing that could happen if I sign this contract and I can't flip houses? And he goes, they can sue you. And I had a moment. I looked around my apartment. I came back. I said, they could have it. And I signed that thing twice.
That's amazing.
And I put myself in a position where failure was not an option. Failure meant everything is done. So through will and grit and whatever you want to call it, I pulled it off. And I pulled it off through taking massive action. So I would work all day real estate, 12, 14 hours. I'd be working from 8 in the morning. I'd get home at like 8 o'clock at night, 8:30 at night. I would eat dinner until 9. And then I would leave my house every night from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., driving all of Southern California by myself, looking for houses that were going to the auction the next day that were not occupied. So I would look for no cars in the driveway, mail by the front door, overgrown lawns, because for the TV show, I didn't have months to evict people. I had to start filming. So then I would spend all night on the road, identify, 50 or, say 5 houses, right? I'd get to the auction, postpone. And then one would go, and my max bid's like 300. It starts at 200. It's like 200, 250. I'm like 300. And the next thing I know, it goes up to 400 from a hedge fund who's standing there with $50 million in checks. And I'm like, I can't compete with these people. What am I going to do? So I just kept doing it every single night. And guess what happened? 2 weeks in, I bid on a house and nobody else bid on me. And you know what I learned? If I show up every day and I take massive action, I'm going to get lucky.
And I absolutely love that. And I love how you have all these ideas and all these opportunities coming your way. And I think anyone out there, you have some opportunities coming your way. You have ideas. And the difference in between, a lot of people and yourself, Tarek, is you're taking action. And, whether or not you think you can do it, you're taking that next step. You're putting in the effort, and you're putting in a ton of effort. Going back to when you started flipping houses, You know, you were putting in, you said you were working Monday through Saturday and Sunday evenings. You know, who does that? I mean, and if you keep doing that over and over again, you're going to see massive success. So I can see why you've been so successful.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's almost obsessive. You know, I was obsessive. I've always put myself in positions where if I fail, like literally it's over. Like it's done. So like if I don't win, everything I've worked for is gone. So I'm willing to show up 20 hours a day if I have to make it work.
That's amazing. And I wanted to jump into, you know, your businesses that you run. I think a lot of people don't realize that you have several different businesses that you're running at one point, and you're being tremendously successful at those. Are you able to share a little bit about how you stay organized and how you're able to successfully operate multiple companies at once?
Yeah. So, you know, TV in a sense was a gift to me, because what it did is it took me away from my businesses, which I so desperately needed to build. So then it taught me how to delegate, it taught me how to build teams, it taught me how to be a leader. So I'm able to do everything I do just from my experience in delegating and building teams and being a leader. And I get a lot of help. You know, I have, you know, I guess you would call it like 4 assistants that help me manage my life. And within those 4 systems, we're able to accomplish everything we're doing. So I have Tarek Buys Houses, where we're flipping houses and wholesaling houses. I have Next Level Property Investments, which is my SFR portfolio. I got about 200 houses there. My company, Homeschooled by Tarek, is where I teach people how to flip houses. We're having a lot of fun there. I actually have big live events in April. And then, of course, you guys know my private equity company, TEM Capital. We're partnering with accredited investors, buying multifamily and self-storage. And then also I have a real estate team at EXP called The Agency. We're over 1,200 agents across the country. And then most recently, I launched a new company called Soul Vision. It's a solar company. And we actually broke the industry record for the most systems sold in our first month in business in the entire U.S. history.
Holy shit. Good for you guys. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And then all that, I'm the CEO of all of those except the solar company. And then outside of that, I'm filming Flipping 101 full time, and then the Flipping El Musas, and then of course I'm a father of 3.
Wow. Talk about a lot going on. How much time do you spend in each of those businesses, or are they set up and kind of running and you just oversee the day to day?
It's all day. It's all day. I mean, if I'm not on camera, I'm responding to emails, text messages, Slacks. I'm on phone calls. I'm on webinars. I'm on trainings. I'm on Zooms. And the second I'm away from that, I'm back on camera. And it's like I'm living 2 different lives. You know, I'm entrepreneur, and okay, cameras are up. Okay, and I have a mobile office, so all day on set, I'm working in my van. Yeah. So it's like I'm being an entrepreneur, and then I got to go be a TV personality, and then back to entrepreneur, and back to TV personality. So it took some time to adjust.
I got to ask. So you came from nothing. Your parents didn't have a lot. Separated homes. What's your why? I mean, how did you become this driven individual? I think a lot of times, a lot of folks just struggle with being motivated. How did it happen that you became so motivated and put 12-hour days in, and then you would eat dinner and then go out and work all night? I mean, what was it, do you think?
This is going to sound a little bit funny, but I hate being told I can't do something.
Yeah.
I just hate being left out. I hate not being invited. I hate not being told I could do something. So like when I first told people I want to flip houses, everybody laughed at me. They said, "You're too young. Flip houses, you're too young. It's too speculative. It's too risky. You don't know what you're doing." And every time they said that to me, like the fire's just building in me. I said, "I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to show you I can flip houses."
Yeah. Wow. I love it. So you've worked on many different types of properties, from small fixer-uppers to multi-million-dollar real estate deals. Do you have a particular preference when it comes to the type of projects you work on? And if so, why?
Yeah, I love commercial real estate. You know, I love multifamily. I love self-storage. I love development. You know, if I could go back and never flip a house, I'd probably do that, to be honest with you. That's my biggest real estate lesson, is don't flip the house, keep the house. But yeah, I'm just obsessed with commercial projects and long-term investments and the amazing things it does.
I would assume the commercial, because it's easier, you can do bigger projects with less work.
You can do bigger projects. There's tax benefits. I mean, just when you think about, you know how much work goes into flipping a house, you have marketing, you have sales team, then you got to hire the contractor, you got to get the permits, and you got to list it, then you got to sell it, and then you got to pay a whole bunch of tax to Uncle Sam and do it all over again. Commercial real estate, it benefits your taxes, you know?
Yeah,
it certainly
it's a
does.
no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, you know? And I didn't know these things because most people are just, they don't have access to the knowledge. Like, I didn't realize the mistakes I made until 2015 when I was making big boy money, and I sat down with a real CPA and explained to me my problems.
exactly. Exact same scenario for me as an athlete growing up. I'm making good money, and all of a sudden my CPA is like, you're not behaving the right way, Dan. You need to start behaving this way to be a part of this tax incentive. I'm, wow, I didn't know that. Thanks for helping me there.
Yeah, yeah. And it's all about education and being curious and trying. Like, my success is I'm very curious about things. How do you do things? And I love trying. I love trying new things.
I'd love to hear a little bit about, you know, what you love with single family rentals and what you love with multifamily or commercial, and why you're doing both.
Yeah, good question. So what I like about single family rentals, you know, I'm just obviously, like, you know, houses is where I came from. So I still have an emotional attachment to houses. But, you know, with rentals, you know, if you look at some of the equity appreciation we had, it's been incredible. I mean, the real estate prices for houses has gone up a ton. Another thing I like about rentals is, you know, people without a lot of money and they don't have a lot of experience, or if they're not accredited, they can actually start investing through houses. So I think it really gives people an opportunity. So for me, houses is an opportunity. Now, beyond the houses, then we get into the big boy stuff. I love commercial real estate. I love the scale of the projects, the amount of work that goes into it. I love the team building behind it. I like the partnerships. And then I like the community, like with TEM Capital. We're throwing investor dinners. We're doing an investor retreat in Cabo San Lucas with all of our partners. And it's about having fun. So it's just totally different business.
And let's dive into that a little bit deeper. You know, I know you've worked with a lot of different people over the years, you know, from business partners to contractors to TV producers. And, you know, Dan and I realize that relationships are everything in business. You know, whether you're dealing with a property management company or an investor, it's just so important. You know, what's the key to building successful relationships in real estate and also in the film industry?
Yeah. Okay. It's very special. Be nice. I'm a big believer in just being nice to people. Like, if you want to build relationships, be nice to people. And if someone's not nice to you back, move on immediately. We only have so much time, and we don't have enough time in the day to waste even a second on someone with a negative attitude, negative energy, a negative mindset. So a big part of my success, especially recently, is really just surrounding myself with the right people, because people, they'll suck you down. They really will, because that's how they were raised by their parents, and that's how our society is. So you got to find your tribe.
So yeah, so funny, Tark. We were just talking about that. We have some team members that we really enjoy hanging out with. You enjoy picking up the phone. You're excited to see them. Then you have some where you're like, man, I'm not really excited to make that call. Yeah, exactly. So that's what we immediately are doing.
Yeah.
We're moving away and moving towards. And I mean, it's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say one other thing really quick. Another huge lesson that I've learned over the years: you can't make people change. They either want to change or they don't. So over the years, I would have these employees, these sales reps, these people that, instead of letting them go because I felt bad in my mind, I'm like, I can get them there. I can motivate them. I can coach them. It didn't matter what I did. They just didn't have what I needed. So I'm a big believer in replacing people that aren't the right people.
I'm so there with you. And I love it. Be nice. How hard is it to be nice? You know, at the end of the day, be nice. I could not agree more. The people who are nice, we want to work with. People who are not nice, we'll just move away from those people and let them go and do their own thing.
Yeah, we don't need attitudes. We don't need egos. Like, we just want nice people.
Yep. So, you know, let's talk a little bit about 2007. You had some pretty big setbacks. You go big, you buy this home, you buy these cars, you lose it all. What would be some lessons that you learned from those setbacks that would be good for our listeners to think about?
Okay, good. So the good news for me back then is I didn't lose it all, meaning my credit was perfect. I knew I was running out of money, and I sold it all. And I sold my last property December of 06. Subprime market crashed March of 07. Okay. So I saw this coming. All the signs were there. Inventory spiked 84%. the absorption rate disappeared. You had 30 homes for sale and only one selling. Supply outweighed demand, and that's when the prices tanked. And I went on my tangent and I forgot the question.
Yeah. So what would be the lesson you'd learned from it if you know, going through the hard times? Was there anything that you took away from 2007, 2008 that moving forward you did not, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is my biggest lesson. So I got into real estate in 2002. From 2002 to 2006, I didn't buy any investment properties. The reason I didn't buy any investment properties is because I kept saying, well, I'm going to wait for them to go down.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go down. They doubled, so that every year they were like 100,000 higher. And I'm definitely not buying it now because it's way more I could have got it for last year, right? So I kept watching the prices go up. And finally, in 2006, I said, I'm getting off the sidelines. Entry-level houses in California were $630,000. I found a new construction, Charlotte, North Carolina, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2,200 square feet for $160,000. I remember thinking, I'm a genius, okay? I said, I can buy this brand new house for $160,000. I can't even build it for $160,000. There's no way I can lose money. I bought this house. I rented it out for $1,200 a month. Yeah, this was 2006. By the end of 2007, the house was worth about $80,000. Okay, so from 160 to 80.
Wow.
I rented it out for $1,200. It was my first rental, which I was self-managing, by the way, from across the country. I did everything wrong, trying to save on management fees. The tenants didn't pay. I had to evict them. They paid like 1 month rent. I had no idea what I was doing. So then when I finally was able to rent it again, I only rented it for $950 a month. So from $1,200 to $950, from 160 to 80. So then I was like, well, I'm broke. I had no money. I was living in an apartment and I was losing money every month. And I said, well, I guess I can short sell it like everybody else. And then I said, you know, if I short sell it, it's going to prevent me from buying a house for a couple of years. So I'm gonna fight my way through this and let's see what happens. So here's what happened. It's now 2023. That house I paid $160 for, that dropped to 80, is now worth $365,000. That's a lot more. The house that I was renting for $1,200 that dropped to $950 is now renting for $2,100, but my mortgage payment's still the same. So this was my biggest lesson in real estate. If I could go back and buy that house at the peak of the market, I'd still do it because I would own it today. So what I learned is this: you only lose money in real estate is if you choose to sell when the prices are low. So if they're low, all you do is wait for them to go back up.
Yep. And
That's it.
let's bring that into multifamily, ladies and gentlemen. As long as you can cash flow deals and you have money at the end of the month, what Tark's talking about is you don't sell when prices are low. You wait for the market to come back and then you exit when the time is right.
Yeah. And here's another reason why we need to always be buying. One, we can't predict the market. When the pandemic hit, I canceled a bunch of deals. I lost $1 million. I shouldn't have canceled them. The market did the opposite of what I thought, right? So that's one thing. Another thing, it takes time to buy property. So if someone wants to be an investor, let's just say I want to be an investor, and instead of investing last year and this year and next year, I'm waiting for the prices to drop. So let's just say I start 4 years from now. Well, it takes time to find deals. So maybe 4 years from now, I can get 2 deals, where if I would have started 4 years earlier, I would now have 8 deals, if that makes sense. Because
Totally.
it takes time.
It takes a lot of time.
You know, while we're waiting, we're just losing opportunity. The best time to invest was yesterday.
Exactly. And if you set the deal up for success, you have the right debt on the property, you have the right team, it's in a good location, like you said, be buying all the time as long as it's hitting all of your requirements.
100%. Now let's just be clear. That doesn't mean someone with no experience, no knowledge, no track record, no training should go out there and buy a house as a rental, because they're gonna be like I was in 2006. But that's why people like us exist. That's why we offer syndications. That's why we work and we partner with accredited investors.
That's exactly right. Tarek, I wanted to dive in, to your personal life a little bit. You own and operate quite a few businesses. You're extremely busy. You have 3 children, your spouse. How do you navigate, the busyness of your life and still have time to be a great parent and a great spouse?
I get a lot of help, and my day is literally scheduled down to the minute. I mean, when I say like the minute, I mean I'll have a call from 11 to 11:10, 11:10 to 11:25, 11:25 to 11:45, 11:45 to 12. So it's all stacked. Everything's organized. I have, you know, two in-person assistants. I have one office assistant. I have one virtual assistant. So between the team, they're really running my entire life. I have no idea where I'm going or why I'm going. Every morning I get into a van that picks me up, and my day is scheduled. The driver knows where to go, and everything is in my calendar.
Wow. Wow. How do you like it? Is it something that you've gotten used to? This is your life, or what's the ups and downs of it?
Well, it's very fast paced. I'll say that. But you know, this is what it takes to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
You know, I have big dreams. Like if you were to ask me 10 years from now, you're going to look back at me today and say, wow, back then you had barely scratched the surface.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm 41 years old. I feel like I'm just getting started in what I want to do in this life.
Man, I couldn't agree more. I'm the same way, 39, and I feel like we're just getting started. We've been doing this now for 10 years pretty obsessively and just cracking the tip of the iceberg of what's possible. Looking ahead, what are your goals and plans for the future of real estate and your media career? I mean, what's your next 5 or 10-year goal look like for maybe multifamily syndication? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, with the TV stuff, I'm going to continue the Flipping El Musas. And then my next show is going to be an entrepreneurial business show. That's what I'm going for next. So probably moving out of the house flipping more into business. How do you start them? How do you launch them? How do you run them? How do you rebrand them? How do you buy them? How do you flip them? I'm even thinking about flipping businesses next. I don't know, you know, so that's TV. And when it comes to real estate, I'm going to continue to buy as many of the best deals as I humanly can for the rest of my life. And I want to work with people that are excited about real estate, that want to build generational wealth, that want to enter my community. And when I say community, it's the TEM Capital community. Like I said, like we're trying to build this like really special community of fun, like, you know, going to Arizona for a racetrack weekend. Like I said, we're going to Cabo in September with all of our investors. And one day I imagine us going into Cabo with like 1,000 investors and storming the hotels and just, you know, having fun. That's my dream.
I love it. I love it.
Absolutely love that as well. And, you know, Tarek, I've really enjoyed the show today, having you on. You provided a significant amount of value. If our listeners want to reach out and get a hold of you or, you know, learn more about what you're doing, how can they contact you?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is at temcapital.co, or they can follow me on my social media, which is The Real Tarek El Moussa. But I get so many messages, I probably won't see that. So the best way to really reach me is through the website, temcapital.co.
Perfect.
Thank you, Tarek.
Thanks again for coming on today.
Thank you. And this was a lot of fun. Had a great time, guys.
Talk to you soon.
All right, we'll see you.